I think we might have some other folks that might join, but I think let's begin. So thank you all for coming. Let me open our time together with a word of prayer. So let's pray. Come, Holy Spirit, be here in our midst as we listen, as we ponder, as we seek your will and your way, as we make room in ourselves and in our midst to be led by your Spirit. We pray all of this in your holy name, O God. Amen. So friends, thank you for taking this time in the middle of your day, especially after having a presbytery meeting last night. I'm so appreciative of your time and excited for this opportunity to share a little bit more about the transitions that are happening with our New Jersey presbyteries. Just to give you all a little update for those who weren't at the presbytery meeting yesterday of where we are kind of on the roadmap in this journey. Our official working date for the transition from 7 presbyteries to 4 is March 1st, when the General Assembly Administrative Commission for Mid-Councils, that's a mouthful, will review and hopefully approve the recommendations that come from the Synod Administrative Commission. From that point, the Synod Administrative Commission will take original jurisdiction as our new presbyteries are formed, these 4 new presbyteries. And all of our work moving forward will utilize the transition teams that have been set up in the different regions. And you'll hear a little bit more about that work, I'm sure, from our guests in a few moments. And when necessary, these transition teams will report to the Synod Administrative Commission on actions that have to take place. I also want to highlight that we think it's really important to celebrate the ministries and work and witness of the Presbytery of New Brunswick. So there will be a called meeting before March 1st so that we are able to do that. So please do keep an eye on your email to make sure that you can attend that gathering, because we really want to make sure that we celebrate and acknowledge this important time in our midst. So I want to introduce our guests. As you saw from the email, we have Reverend Jeanne Radak, who is currently the leader of Newton Presbytery and working on the transition for the Northwest, and Reverend Thia Reggio, who is our Synod of the Northeast facilitator for Central. And so what I've invited them to do today is to share a little update about where each of these regions is, and then we'll open up the opportunity for comments and questions, and then we'll close our time a little bit before 1 o'clock in prayer. So I'm going to invite Jeanne to start us off. We'll move from north of the state south. So thanks, Jeanne, for being with us today.
Sure. Haven't talked to anybody all morning, so give me where we are in the Northwest is we are in the midst of, we have a what we call a technical team. It's made up of folks from New Brunswick, Elizabeth, and Newton presbyteries who are working on coming up with a temporary structure, sort of merging and adapting documents from all 4 presbyteries, because we're going to be Northwest is 4 presbyteries, parts of 4 presbyteries, and so they are in that process. They're in that midst of it, and hopefully, like within a week or 2, we should have that temporary structure, which will come to the new presbytery at the first meeting of the presbytery, which I thought I had that date available. It's March 16 for those of you who are coming to the Northwest. Yes, March 16. It'll be by Zoom. And at that meeting, we will then vote on all those things we got to vote on. There's like a whole long list, and that list is still growing. And that will be our temporary structure. Also at that meeting, we will vote on a transition team. That will be the team that will lead us through a discernment process of saying, all right, now that we're a new presbytery, where is God leading us? What is God's vision and mission and ministry for this new presbytery? So they will lead us through that process. At the end of that process, we will revisit our structure and adapt the structure to fit the new vision and mission. How long is that going to take? I don't know. Hopefully by the end of the year. That's kind of our goal. But as we know from last year, all bets are off on timelines. So that's really where we are. We've been sending out emails. Most of you, if you're clerks or pastors, you should be getting emails from us inviting you to different events we had. We had a few weeks ago, we met with our acting stated clerk to talk about some clerk things. We're going to be doing that again. They're going to be doing some clerk training in the near future. We'll be doing some other resourcing events coming up. There's a resourcing event on March 6th on the missional practices of hospitality. How do we do hospitality in this new world that we find ourselves? So those are the kind of things that, to kind of look forward to. Also, looking at make sure I covered my notes here. Probably Friday. I think it's, it'll come out Friday in the newsletter. We'll probably do a separate newsletter on this too, is we're going to have 4 to 6. I'm not sure. It's looking like 6 right now. Options for a new name. Right now, our working name is Northwest New Jersey, but there are already 2 other presbyteries that have Northwest in their name, and we've already been confused with them. So we decided that maybe that might be a good idea to change our name, and we have to have it by March 1st. We just found out. So on Friday, it will come out in various forms, a way that you can vote on your top 3 choices. And you'll have a week to do that. And then it'll come out again that these are going to be the top 3, and then you get to pick that, pick your top name for the new presbytery. Those are the coming to the Northwest. So that's what we have.
Thanks, Jeanne. There's also a Facebook group, right, for the Northwest?
There's a Facebook group for the pastors. Yeah.
For the pastors. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't set up one for the new presbytery yet, just because we don't have a name.
Right.
But you can find information on the Presbytery of Newton website. We keep that kind of thing. As soon as we have a name, we'll change that page to that name and update it. We probably won't have a totally new page until sometime later in the year, because that's just a lot of work. And so we'll just have working pages until we can put together new ones.
Thank you. Yeah, the names are important, and I'm excited to see what the different options are.
Question came, what time is the meeting for the Northwest Presbytery on March? Right now it's 7 o'clock. It'll be 7 o'clock in the evening.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeanne. Thia, would you like to give us an update on Central?
Absolutely. Well, it'll sound pretty similar, I would say, although I know the timing of certain things is different here in Central than from where you all are in the Northwest. But similarly, there's been work going on since November to try to bring together the leaders from New Brunswick, Monmouth, and Elizabeth, all of which will have churches represented in Central, and to keep the conversation going about what's needed. And so much of what Jeanne has touched on, there needs to be an interim structure. Things need to be in place so that no one falls through the cracks, no church goes unsupported, no candidate for ministry is left on the road without someone beside them. And so looking at all of those things that need to be provided for in the interim. We have also put together a core transition team. That team will has begun its work, convened last week for the first time, and will be thinking about the mission and vision and all the. In fact, I could show you a model of the piece, and I'll just do a little summary first, and then I'll show you just a few slides, if I can, Larissa, if you can give me that permission. So we are also going to look to have that transition team constituted as an advisory board. So they have standing within the presbytery to actually bring recommendations, and they're going to be continuing to look at that visioning and mission level, even as the interim structures that have been put together through joint meetings of CPM and COM continue the work. And also, I think, Larissa, you may have said this in your introduction, but because the ecclesial piece, the piece that makes us a presbytery in terms of the way we interact as church people, will be shifting as of March 1. At the same time, there's a corporate reality, which relates to the state of New Jersey, and all of the financial matters, including how people get paid and all of that, will continue on through that corporate structure. And so the trustees and the various presbyteries will continue to do that work. So I see it sort of like a two-track work, but with connectivity from the blue sky and mission piece to this foundational piece that will then merge together and form themselves around the new mission. So all of those things are happening, but the place where we are, because we are not yet ready to be thinking of a name other than Central, I will share just a few slides from one of the presentations that I've been giving. Are you seeing my mission survey results slide? Okay.
Yes.
Great, so we're starting with mission, defining mission, and to that end, we did a mission survey, and we've had a bunch of conversations. Many of you have been in them. Some of you have already seen these slides a couple of times, in which these priorities for ministry and mission have emerged solidly across the region. So outreach to community, congregational vitality, justice, and evangelism are things that flow through. And I'm sure immediately you can see these are not separate so much from one another, but interrelated. So we're thinking about them as a reciprocal and connectional opportunity. So mission that benefits from strength and community also has the flexibility to respond to its context, wherever that ministry is planted, and then the whole supports the parts, and the parts contribute to the whole. And the path to congregational health then lying in looking outward to the community and interacting both as a missional community and with the community beyond. So our job right now is to think about how to weave that mission together. So this little starting point is going to be the place where the core transition team and the leadership teams are focusing their energy. Vital congregations and ministries connecting with communities to seek justice and reflect the love of Jesus Christ in the world. And these are the teams that have been created. Some of them will be gaining more members, but the core transition team, as you can see, interacts with each of the teams around the circle, and they interact with one another. But basically, they include relationship building, justice and outreach, pastoral care, congregational support, governance, ministries, staffing and structure, communication, finance, planning, and logistics. So where Jeanne was talking about the technical and the, sorry, I forgot the other category, these would fall into those to some degree, but they would also bridge over. And you can see that none of these has a name that relates currently to the way that structure works. So there's no COM here, there's no CPM, because the current COM and CPM are carrying that water for what's going on during the transition. But the folks who are looking at pastoral care, congregational support, ministries will all have a conversation around what it takes to create a COM, a CPM, so that we can be envisioning what that structure will be. And then the staffing and structure will be built up to meet the mission and support the mission going forward. And from that, hopefully, also a name will come. We're seeing the timeline play out like this, very similar to what you've heard already. The Synod Commission will meet, then the GA Administrative Commission will receive their overture and likely approve it if the way be clear. By March, we will also have an initial meeting by the end of March, so that date will be coming to you. And then there will be a hybrid model for at least the first 3 months, and then the full implementation plan and the beginning of implementing that in the first 6 months. And we're looking not so much to the end of the year, but to the end of the first transition year as the timeline for that to be completed. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen just because it's always more fun to see everybody's faces. But I thought it might be helpful to, sometimes it's helpful for me to see something while I'm hearing something. So I turn it back to you, Larissa and Jeanne. Any questions, whatever we want to talk about now?
I want to add that when I said year, I meant transition year too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
if I said it wrong, I meant, yeah, it won't be done by December. You know, it just, they'll be pushing it.
Right. And I'm sure you're saying the same thing, which is, you know, there's no done anyway. It's all just a matter of of how much is in place. It's all just a living, breathing operation. So it'll,
yeah, pieces will get put together as we go along. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, thank you both. That was really helpful. And it's great to see the synergy that's happening in both regions and to see the overlap as we all kind of journey together. We've been saying a lot that the boundaries aren't solid, right? So there's still going to be a lot of work and relationship that we're doing with one another. And so as I see the trajectory, we really are walking alongside each presbytery together. So that's really exciting for me to see. I want to open up the opportunity if people have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask, as we have Thia and Jeanne with us here today. And feel free to either just jump right in or you can type your question in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
This is for Thea, but maybe also for Jeanne. I'm from Stockton Presbyterian, so we're moving to the Northwest. So my question was in reference to Thea's referencing the Committee on Ministry. So does even though our church is moving to the Northwest, does the current Committee on Ministry at the Presbytery of New Brunswick retain jurisdiction over our relationship with our minister?
No, as soon as the commission votes, then it's the Committee on Ministry for the Northwest. And I did not mention that, and I should have had it written down and I skipped it, but we are already working on training the COM and getting new additional members to, you know, the group. So actually, if you've got suggestions for especially elders who might want to serve on COM, I'd appreciate hearing it. So yes, come whatever date, I'm assuming March 1st, if the way be clear kind of thing, then that would be the Northwest COM.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Larissa. Thea, this would be a question for you. So on the New Brunswick CPM, March 1st is the date we would effectively join with the other two CPMs to be now at New Central CPM?
That is correct. However, I will also say that we've been working really closely with the existing CPMs, knowing that there are some candidates or folks in the process that are on particular timelines. And we have communicated with the AC that will need to be honored, so that the existing meetings that are on the books for the March 1st and 2nd meeting will be joint meetings, in the sense that there will be representation from each presbytery. It may not be, you know, the complete mutual CPM structure that will emerge in April, but there will be representation so that it is clear that whatever is happening for those ordinance candidates, wherever they are, is binding under the jurisdiction of the AC. So I know that's a tricky one.
And it's our understanding that there is just one candidate coming from the churches to the Northwest. So I'm
I
understanding.
think that's right.
I think there's just one. So that person will be, you know, received into the new CPM. And one of the conversations we have to have with the New Brunswick, and it's the New Brunswick that we're not getting any candidates from Elizabeth or Palisades, is making sure we understand what the requirements are, so we don't add requirements or miss something they've already done, you know. So there's got to be a conversation, so we make sure that whatever process they're in, that they started with, that they get to continue with. Most CPMs are pretty close. They pretty much all follow the General Assembly guidelines, but some add, some, you know, shift things around, you know, have different timelines for things to get done. And so we just want to make sure we don't add it's already stressful going through the CPM process. We just don't want to add to that stress.
Yes, we've been looking really carefully at that, because obviously New Brunswick, with the presbyteries, seminaries within it, has a very particular way of doing things, and a lot of folks they're doing it with. So that conversation has been ongoing to sort through those timelines and requirements and ways of working, who does cohorts, who does one-on-one, and all of that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Jean, Ted wants to know if the candidate is from Bound Brook.
Yes, it is from Bound Brook. At least that's my understanding, Thea, unless you know someone else.
No, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Great. What other questions do you all have?
Oh, come on, you must have a question.
Go ahead, Ted.
So since the suggestion was early on that the existing work in presbyteries that people wanted to see carried forward into the new presbytery, which for us, although Bound Brook's going to the Northwest, but the people that I was working with are staying in the Central. And we have a good group that's been meeting called the Social Witness Working Group. But we've been meeting again and actually incorporated Monmouth and Elizabeth in the meetings. And the things that we want to have continued in the Central Presbytery are a working group that focuses on social justice and peacemaking. And we've drawn up a sort of a statement of what the function of this group would be. And then there are specific items that we've been doing in the past with the New Brunswick Presbytery, including emphasizing congregational participation in the Peace and Global Witness offering, and the Presbytery using its portion of that offering for a separate account in the Presbytery for peacemaking and social justice, and including relationships with the international peacemaking efforts of the denomination, where mission co-workers come every year, are available to come every year, to have that as part of what the what this new working group would continue to do, and to emphasize participation in ecumenical advocacy days. This year is going to be virtual, but we've had participants do that during our time in the ecumenical advocacy days in Washington, D.C. And even when we had the budget to help with some of the costs for that. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about. We've met twice, and we'll be meeting again hopefully in the next couple of weeks to try to sort of finalize what we want to send forward to the core transition team for Central Presbytery.
Yeah, I just want to say it's been great to be a part of those meetings and to listen to those conversations, and you put your finger right on it. So we will be carrying those recommendations that you all have, those passions that you're devoted to, into the core transition team. And then the core transition team will make sure that the justice and outreach team will take those into consideration. And also, I think the core transition team will look at other places where they'll need to be considered. So in terms of the financial piece of that, and in terms of the staffing and structure that might relate to the justice component. So that all that good work is creating the foundation for folks to carry forward. So much appreciated.
There's a question in the chat from BC, who's a member of our COM here in the Presbytery. And her question is, Thia, how does the transition affect the work of COM in relation to the churches?
So I feel like I should almost toss that right back to you, Larissa, because the meeting that Larissa and I just had before this with the stated clerk from Monmouth, and only just Monmouth because the stated clerk from Elizabeth was not available today, but we get him plenty as well. So the answer is that we are crafting that, and we are looking at, well, first and foremost, the COM is continuing on in an interim formation, which is what we were talking about, same as what Jeanne is proposing, so that churches that are currently engaged with COM and have pressing matters or are in transition will be cared for throughout the time by members of COM that have agreed to continue on. So we are looking at how to reshape that so that we're inviting everyone in, sort of like what Ted is saying. How do we configure those interactions around a structure that makes sure that the healthy churches feel connected to Central, that the churches that are in some type of great need are getting the level of support that they need, that churches that are in transition have both staff and COM support for that transition, whether it's a pastoral search or whatever that looks like. There's also a vital congregations effort that was commissioned last evening that we hope to expand with the support of COM. And then also looking at all the ministries, all the validated ministries, all the emerging ministries, all the things that don't necessarily fall under the label of church or congregation in the way we think of it. So we're trying to look across all of those and make sure that there's leadership to take those forward. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Gina, I think it might be helpful to hear a little bit about what's happening with like COM in the Northwest as well.
Very similar. We're working to put together the structure. We have a pretty robust COM structure already. So we're just expanding that to be able to connect with the new churches. Because remember, we got 4 presbyteries we have to connect to. Just the way we do it are going to be doing the way we do it now, and the way we're going to be doing it is through liaisons who will each be assigned to 3 or 4 churches, and they will be the person you connect to. They'll help you through search process, that kind of thing. So we're trying to expand. We did not between the Newton COM has all agreed to stay on. There was no one on COM for Palisades in the churches that are coming from us. 1 person from Elizabeth, and no one from the New Brunswick churches had anybody already on COM. So we've been trying to recruit people from those presbyteries to serve on the new COM. So we really have gotten 1 person from New Brunswick so far, really could use more, and 1 person from Elizabeth. So we're still working on it. But the idea is very similar to what Thia says, be able to still connect and help assist churches so they make sure that, you know, they're covered and cared for. And one of the things we need to talk about, probably Larissa and Thea and I, is we need documentation of those churches. So we need to figure out how to get documentation and, you know, someone kind of help us understand what some of the stories that go with the churches. So that's the next step.
Thank you, Jean. What other questions, folks?
So I'll add another one. In the New Brunswick Presbytery, because of a time when we experienced difficulty getting people to commit to all the committees, we had for three years to have actually 3 years times 3, and then the number of people needed to make up the committee. We went to in our bylaws, we went to working groups, and that's when we created this Mission Interpretation Social Witness Working Group that had the ability to make recommendations to the presbytery through the central leadership team, and also had a budget, and also could bring overtures to the presbytery for consideration, overtures for General Assembly consideration, but to the presbytery, so that we built into the structure of the presbytery working groups, so we didn't have to worry about having enough people to make a 3-year commitment. But we did require a certain number of teaching elders to be involved to make it work. And so that's something I hope that I don't know whether the Central Presbytery will continue that. If they do, I think it's worth thinking about, and it's something I think the Northwest Presbytery should think about in terms of getting people willing to serve and not having to serve 3 years. But as we did it with the working group, we could collect people who were interested in a particular project. Like we had a very large group that did work on the prison system, and we did a day-long conference, and then we went to each church with the stuff that we had collected or did to each church to meet with them and talk with them about how they could get involved somehow in this whole system of prisons. So that the working group idea, I think, became pretty valuable for the presbytery, and I hope that's something that will continue in both presbyteries.
That's helpful, Ted, because I feel like it models to me, right, that stories are so important. And as we kind of begin to serve in these different configurations, we bring these stories and best practices and hopes and visions and dreams that we have for the work. And some of those things are like, oh, here's a great idea, we want to give a shot. And then other things might just be like, oh, we did this way, and we might recommend that we never do it that way again for these particular reasons, right? So I think a part of the items that you're sharing also remind me that there's so many different feedback loops and opportunities for dialogue in both of these kind of new configurations of presbyteries. So I want to give folks time to also think about if you have other questions, but I wanted to ask a question just because we're in such a strange season, and I think change and transition like this is something to navigate under the best of circumstances. And now here we are in this kind of virtual world. And so I'm just curious, Jeanne and Thia, as you all have been thinking about particularly, what does it look like to build relationships in the midst of Central and Northwest? What are some things that are either in the works or that have been in conversation as we think about building relationships in these new configurations?
What we have been doing so far is at our January Presbytery meeting, we invited folks from Palisades, Elizabeth, and New Brunswick. I think we had almost 20 from those presbyteries, and I still don't have the list, but join us. And the intention was to the theme of the presbytery meeting was building relationships. So we broke into small groups, had some conversations, worship together. The February presbytery meeting will be the last meeting of Newton Presbytery, but everyone will again be invited to attend, but it will be focused on closing off Newton's 203-year history. So that'll be at the meeting, but hold on. Okay. And so we've been doing that. We've been doing some small gatherings like for clerks. So clerks get to talk to clerks. We have we do a lot of resourcing, and we see that as a real good opportunity for, building community. So if you see opportunities to come and gather. So we've been really, really intentional about every time we gathered. Unfortunately, it's always been by Zoom since March. But trying to, it's the main focus has been building community, getting to know each other, sharing stories, that kind of thing. That's going to continue. We've got, 4 presbyteries that have got to learn to get to know each other. So there's a lot to do. It's harder online to build community. I think we're all learning that, but it's possible. I'm actually just today, I had to write up some things for the Synod Commission meeting that we're having. And one of the things I'm hoping is that we will have a face-to-face presbytery gathering or meeting like by September and make it an all-day retreat kind of thing. Johnsonburg Camp is going to be within the bounds of Northwest New Jersey. So we probably will meet at Johnsonburg kind of thing. Everybody knows Johnsonburg, right? Everybody just say yes and, appease me. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of it's been hard. But we do have the Facebook groups that we've been trying to do, trying to do a lot of communication and just trying to get people together where it seems to fit naturally. Does that answer your question, Larissa?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jay. I just want to add too that you and Newton Presbytery, as well as all the Presbytery leaders, I feel like do such a great job of kind of mutual resourcing. And so one of the spirits of these, the new configuration of our presbyteries is to also do those shared resources. And so I imagine there'll also be opportunities for us to do things together, even beyond our presbyteries, right?
Right off the bat, we're going to be scheduled, as soon as everybody's organized, we got to schedule boundary training for pastors. We'll be doing that. We may do like clerk training across the all, or at least the, the northern half of the state, which we've done in the past. But we have done that for all 7 presbyteries, and I don't see that not happening again. That'll continue, definitely.
Yeah, I've already gotten questions about equipping the saints as well, which used to be, partnership among our presbyteries. And so I see that kind of expanding too. So Thia,
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. So I have a unique perspective. I was thinking about, this is a different intersection, but I feel like I have the benefit of always being at the intersection of these gatherings because I am not a member of any of the presbyteries. So when I meet with folks, I'm typically able to see across the presbyteries that are coming into Central. So we have done information sessions since the fall, since before the votes, gathering folks together, and I try to make relationship building a piece of everything that we do. So either doing some joint work together where we create a word cloud or have a conversation, share some ideas, or just when it's a smaller group, having people introduce themselves and see who's seeing some face for the first time, which almost every time somebody's seeing somebody new. Then we did a retreat back in January, which was intentionally not informational because we get so much information and, answering so many questions, but just to be together. And we did that on Epiphany, thinking that it would be this open space in which to, think about seeing one another and so on. And it turned out to be this particular January 6th, which had a very different flavor to it, as you all may recall. But it was good. It was good to be together. And then I'm going to put Wendy on the spot if she's willing. Wendy is a part of the relationship building on the core team. And I know those folks bring some ideas about what we may do. Storytelling is a big piece of it for sure, worship planning and so on. But Wendy, would you mind adding a little bit of that conversation?
There had been some talk about, because there's such an incredible amount of passion all around about social justice issues, of maybe trying to provide an opportunity to engage in some racial awareness, racial bias training, some programs that are already existing and out there. We were looking at several organizations that might be able to come in and work with us. And we were thinking, what better opportunity to get to know one another than joining forces to take part in training for ourselves and for our church families, for one another, how we can do better, be better, and know more together. So that was one early idea that's been floated and talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a snapshot, I guess.
Thank you. Well, we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Are there any other questions that folks have? Don't be shy. If you don't want to say it, you can put it in the chat and I'll say it for you. Go ahead, Jeanne.
Jean Woodman, Hamilton Square. I'm still trying to figure out when people get together. Like, I'm supposed to be on a finance team, but I don't know the other people. I don't know how to get a hold of them. How does that happen, and what kind of timeline should I be expecting?
So I am going to be sending out emails to follow up from the training that was held on Monday, the orientation. I should say it wasn't really a training, it was orientation. With that information, since I am a one person operation in terms of that particular view onto everybody's information. And it's been a couple of days of meetings. I haven't done my follow-up with you all, but that is forthcoming. And I'm going to be providing your contact information. A little bit of an expanded thumbnail was requested on each team so that folks have a little bit deeper understanding than the one-liner that had gone out about what each team could do, and just a few prompts. So that's what's taking me a day or two to get that together, trying to bake in what we heard on Monday. But that should be coming to you in the next couple of days.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful. Can I follow up, because there's two of us who are New Brunswick trustees here. What should we be expecting prior to March 1st?
So I know Larissa also has a window into this. We have been talking about the fact that the trustees need to get together both across the presbyteries, but also within the presbyteries, because there is a list of items that has been requested from the AC that the trustees will have the best window into. And I know we're happy to, from my perspective, we're happy to share, but I would defer to Larissa about if you all have a plan thus far to communicate those tasks to the trustees.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of these things happening simultaneously. So the treasurers from all three presbyteries are going to get together to kind of do a little bit of a baseline look at our financials and see what's similar, what's different, what are the things that we need to talk about. And then I think from there, we'll definitely go to the larger group of trustees from each of our respective presbyteries. And it's possible that the treasurers might even have some recommendations from there as well. I'm always kind of a fan of like starting with a smaller group and then kind of growing the conversation from there. So that's where we're at. That meeting should be scheduled hopefully within the next week for them to gather together. Mm-hmm.
And also just to be clear, because I'm not sure if you said March 1, it's just March 1 rings in my head every day, all day. So I don't know if that's, but just to be clear, the corporations do have a longer lifespan. So although certain plans for things need to be in place for March 1, just so that all the levels that are involved have a sense that people are engaged and know what they're doing, even if they're not currently doing it, there will be a longer timeline to accomplish much of what needs to be accomplished for the corporation.
Yeah, March 1st is the ecclesiastical start, and the corporation start takes a little bit more because we got lawyers to get involved and all, in the financials, the trustees, those kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's think March 1st is ecclesiastical start, and the corporate start will be later into the year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a help.
And this is Linda Gilmore. I'm the treasurer of New Brunswick. As the treasurer, I feel pretty lost right now about when a lot of stuff is going to happen. I know we have an audit requirement, but I don't know the effective date of that. It sounds like we're going to be still maintaining our own separate books for a while, but it would really be helpful to get some clarity on some of that. And maybe that's dependent on this finance team getting together or whatever. But I think that I'm feeling really uncertain about how long my role is going to continue and, what to do about arranging an audit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what Larissa is saying, that meeting needs to happen. And part of the reason is not so much waiting for the finance team, because they're thinking also long-term about how finances support mission in the same way that staffing and structure has to support mission. But to your question, some of it was getting the guidance from the AC, which we only got a couple of weeks ago, about exactly what tasks, and the dates are still being clarified. So we didn't want to muddy the waters too much, but I think we do have that clarity for you, and that meeting that Larissa is referring to should be able to share that with you.
I don't know about Thia, we've got a meeting tonight with the AC, right? You're coming, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're meeting with each of the new presbyteries to kind of, so we can have answers to what are some dates, what are,
Yeah.
you know, what do we specifically need, you know, so we haven't even received that yet, but I think within the next week or so, we will have that. It's all kind of rolling out pretty quickly right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeanne and Thea, for being with us. I wonder if I could ask you both to put your email addresses in the chat, just in case people want to reach out. There might be some folks on this call that just felt the spirit and want to raise their hand and say, hey, how can I help? And other folks who maybe like me about 5 hours from now will think of the questions that I would have loved to ask in this gathering. So I know Jeanne and Thea and myself as well are available to answer any of your questions, comments, any reflections that you might have. I want to take some time to intentionally close this gathering in prayer. Was my hope that this isn't just information gleaning, but also a part of our continued discernment as we go through this presbytery transition. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment to center yourself, to get comfortable, whether it be in the chair that you're sitting in, or maybe sitting on the ground or standing up, whatever it may be. And I don't know about you, but I've been sitting in this chair for a while. So I also want to invite you to stretch a little bit, maybe roll your shoulders, move your body to let go of any tension and to kind of ground yourself anew. I'm going to take a few moments of silence so that we open ourselves up to the Spirit's continued presence with us. So let us pray. Oh God, we came to this sacred space from all corners of the Presbytery of New Brunswick and beyond. We heard information about where we are and encouragement for the way forward. What an amazing call you have placed in our midst. With faith, we move forward to seek your will and your way, trusting that you never lead your people astray, you never let us go, and you never leave anyone behind or forgotten. So we bring all that we are into this work: excitement and curiosity, anxiety and worry, and everything in between. Guide us to acknowledge where we each are, knowing that you meet us there in that place, and help us to take these realities while we dream and vision the future together. So hear us now as we name the unknown in our midst, either silently or aloud. And now hear us as we lift up the aspiration, hopes, and dreams for the future. Holy One, inspire us to expand our understanding of who you are and what you are doing among us. Allow us to remain open, empty vessels, ready to be filled with your Spirit. And as we are filled, remind us to take time to rest and seek spaces of rejuvenation. We simply cannot do this work alone, and we must also be, just simply be, so that we can continue to witness to the new thing that you are doing. Guide us to let go of the burdens that weigh us down, those things that keep us from even taking one step forward and lift them up to you. And so now I pray for each leader on this call. Thank you for their service to this presbytery, to their congregations, and to their communities. Continue to equip them for the way forward. And stop each one of them in their tracks, pushing away the busyness of each day to be reminded of the awe-filled wonder that you provide. May their actions testify to your radical kingdom here on earth. We especially pray for Thia and Jeanne as they lead and facilitate these conversations. May they do so with support and care from those around them. Thank you for the privilege of being your hands and feet in this world, O God. Amen. Friends, thank you for coming today. Again, reach out to any of the three of us. We're here to support you along the way. It's a real privilege to do this work, and we'll keep in touch. So blessings on your day, friends, and also your week. Peace be with you.